Carmore Latin. On the right there he is holding a Lee Enfield rifle and the head of a pike, 1798. This is his native Foghill here. And Frank Murphy now talks and points out where his house was once before around 1860. Village, about 50 years ago.
That is right.
Yeah.
The middle one.
Yeah.
It'll be the third down.
Yeah.
And it'll be the fourth up. It's about 7.
Between McCrory's and O'Malley's.
Yeah, because it's just this north and Broadish.
Yeah. So it was in here.
Just there now it'll be about 6 years in there.
Yeah. One gable attached into the other.
Yeah. One gable dividing the two houses.
Yeah. You were telling me that you played cards with this man.
Yes.
A long time ago.
Yeah, I suppose it should be 55 years ago.
Yeah. You were a small fella at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is right, sure.
He was old, wasn't he, at the time, or was he?
Well, he was. Not that old now.
Yeah.
No.
That was Frank Murphy there, giving the exact location of the house where Micheál McCrory was born in 1860. Micheál McCrory, Patrick Pearce's gardener, came from Foghill, from that house up there where it was situated a long time ago. He wrote a book about this area. He called it Le Linn Moige, first published in 1944. His grandfather was Patrick Cooper, who was brought in by Reverend Peter Neri and got land in Foghill. He taught some kind of school in Bríd for a while. This is Cooper did. English and Greek were the subjects before he moved into Killala. One of his daughters, Nancy, married George Rogers. Oh yes, John referred to him as Shorty there. Ruairí was one of their sons. He writes of Foghill houses in his mother's time. Windows were tall and narrow, too small to let thieves come through. Yos, that means yeoman soldiers, dressed as white boys, often raided tenants' houses. One night some of these Yos were assaulted by the real white boys, and 2 Yos were killed. 6 white boys had to go on their keeping, as they say, to France. One of these was called Colonel Kane. In his house in his young days up here, in Foghill, were pigs under the bed. 8 people lived in the house, healthy. There was a litter of bonnets at the foot of the bed. 1 cow and 2 calves were tied on the horse. The house was cleaned every morning. He claimed Fianna Éanna spent their time on Lacan Strand way down here. Single combats, he says, were fought here. And he also talks of burials being way down there in that direction at the Green Hill. In 1641, McCrory went to Dublin as a young fellow, and he worked out in Blackrock in a place called Stradbrook. He married a woman from Coolcronan called Alice Wallace, about midway between Ballina and Foxford. In 1911 he became a gardener for Pádraig Pearse. He lived at St. Inda's Lodge, where Pearse had his Irish school, Scoil. McCrory was a patriot, writer as well as a gardener, and he wrote a lot of books. Books he wrote were Lúb na Cailí, Le Linn Moige, which was about his native Foghill, and this book was published in 1944. He was at the GPO in the rebellion of 1916, and Pearse sent him home to take care of his mother, or maybe because his sight was affected in those days. Now here we will have a look at St. Inda's Lodge and Scoil and a picture of his wife Alice Wallace, and also his daughter, Mrs. Bríd Tully, who still lives on in St. Inda's Lodge at Scoil. This is Mrs. Bríd Tully. One and only daughter. Most of his men didn't. You're the only one in the family he had, as a matter of fact, haven't you?
That's right. Well, there was one who died at birth, you know.
Oh, was it? Yeah. So you were born up here and lived all your life here?
Yes.
Yeah. So you were here to see the troubled times, right?
Yeah, well, I have a fair idea, but I mean, I remember the morning Daddy was arrested up here in the garden. That's why he was arrested and brought up then it's from up and so.
Yeah, that's right. That's it. You were telling me too that he was expecting it, wasn't it?
That was it. We all felt that, you know, John, when they were arresting him inside.
That's right. That's right.
Quite a few around here were arrested at the same time.
No, you're telling me too he was with Porrick Pierce in the GPO, wasn't it?
And he was sent home.
He was sent home.
To mine mother. Mine was his mother.
Yeah. Well, hadn't he bad sides too at the time?
Hardly any side. I mean, he was either beaten or I went.
He walked away up there, didn't he?
He did round.
Do you think he planted any of these trees there?
But I haven't a clue.
You never heard them say? No.
Anyway, unfortunately, I took very little
interest.
I'm ashamed to a line of my life to say that, really.
Yeah. Some crops, would it be shrubbery and plants?
No, it was the garden.
Ah, yeah, they'd be selling vegetables to the city.
They had their own vinery.
Had they?
They had, and they had the tomato ones and all that sort of thing. That all went, like everything else.
Have it turned into a museum now, haven't they?
They have.
Of
course, the garden has all changed. I mean, them at all later. It was really lovely. The way it was done, and especially the beds.
Yeah. You have some photographs. Yeah. Where?
Go on. You can't go right.
Yeah, where you used to have the area, you say? Up here?
Yonder.
Yeah.
Up there in that field.
So that picture was taken when De Valera came out to see Micheál here at one of these.
1920, was it?
Yeah, around that time.
Jail, 1920.
What did he came out of jail?
He came up here, he was to speak and he was hoarse. And just Daddy, they gave the sermon to hear him, the oration or whatever, you know?
Yeah. Well, kind of a fish, was it?
Oh yes, what was it was, you know, the dancing and everything else, and sideshows and all that, band competitions, you know.
Did they continue this for many years here?
Oh, but that was a great place for that. Then after the rising for the dependent prisoners.
Oh yeah.
They always had had them up here, you know.
Yeah.
So it was a grand big field, and then.
That's Micheál there, and his wife Alice Wallace, and Bríd yourself.
Little barn.
Down here. Taken a long time ago.
Oh, nearly there. First, used to have a lovely show of flowers.
Yeah.
That's gone, they knocked that down too.
Can't flood here, and I don't know who's over on the other side. Some of his pupils.
I don't his name at all, yeah.
Yeah.
That was taken out by the last year.
Is that so? Yeah. And there's a big photograph of him with all his medals.
You haven't any of his medals?
I have, Philomena has them up.
Yeah.
She brought them up to polish them for me, and I thought they'd be safer up there, you know.
Indeed.
They were no good to you, would they?
No.
Door, very low.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But then Tom changed all that there, the glass, and made it brighter too.
Now the grounds Now back in the background there was Scoil or St. Patrick's, or Porrick Pierce's school, which closed, I'm told, in 1935. This is where Micheál McGrory worked as a gardener up here. Now this field here was used for Festina and Éanna, and that big picture with Éanna De Valera down there, Micheál McGrory, was sometime after the rising, when after the 1916 rebellion when all was over, and when the area and whatever continued here in this field up here. Now that school up there has been turned into a museum. They call it the Pierce Museum. Driveway up to Pierce Museum. This is the gatehouse. There was a great friend of his. Garden here and sold them to the city of Dublin. He also taught Gaelic to his students the Gaelic language. He was a native Swede. Once again back at the lodge. Now we'll have a look at the late John O'Malley of Foghill, who knew Micheál well, and his brother, and also gave us the site for building this monument in memory of Micheál. His brother's name was Pat Rogers. He was in Boren's Mills under Éanna de Valera. He was one of the volunteers also in the 1916 rebellion. Now here is John O'Malley, who lived right beside him, whose house was joined down to McGrory's in the old days, and to passed on last year.
Two houses was fashioned out of them.
Yeah.
Goodness sake, gable to gable.
Gable to gable. One gable was one roof on each of them.
Well.
The two roofs was beaten.
Yes.
So this is where he was born and raised. Yeah.
That's no very well sure.
Do you remember what his father's name was?
Shorter.
Shorter.
Yeah.
And he had brothers and sisters too?
He had. Now you do. Pat and he had two brothers more. John Rogers. Sean Rogers.
Sean
Yeah.
Well, he used to come on holidays then?
He used them very often.
Is that?
Himself and Pat used to come down, and Pat wasn't there, and he used to have a rifle with him. We used to be down there at the strand, shoot with the rifle.
Oh, yeah.
We used to, like.
You don't remember the last time he came down, do you?
I don't know.
50 years ago?
It is. Well, it is and more.
Yeah.
Yes, we have that house built 50 years, and he didn't come down here since.
I see.
We got it. We got that little gate, and then we threw the whole house out of it.
Yes. Well, did the daughter ever come? He had a daughter, I believe.
Well, I never seen the daughter.
She used to come with him, like?
No.
Yes.
But she was in it, I heard.
Yes.
Yeah.
I said that, right.
She did, surely.
One of them was his mother, wasn't it?
Yes, she was Cooper.
Nancy Cooper.
Yes, Nancy Cooper.
That's nice. Miss Padden, I think he said the name of the tea. Did you ever hear of her?
No, I didn't.
His father would have a school for a short time up in Tully. You didn't ever hear of that, did you?
I didn't.
No.
I never heard about the School of Tully. But there was only Irish, all Irish he had, you see.
Oh, yes.
He used to have a copy stick with him. If you spoke a word English, he'd kill you.
Is that it?
So you'd want to be got out of his way.
I see.
Family, the marrieds, they were tradesmen and builders, weren't they?
Well.
They were.
Now, MacRory was a writer, and here we have a look at some of the books that he wrote. One of them, Lilin Moiga, was about his native Foghill that he dictated to his daughter Bríd, and it is now in print, published in 1944. Other books are also here, you will see the titles of them. He also wrote a lot for Pearson. He wrote in the Creevagh, and he wrote in other Gaelic papers. He's a member of Cundra na Gaeilge, and a great Irish speaker, and a great, well, he was an Irish writer too, and very much involved in Cundra na Gaeilge. These are his books. Lub na Cailí, John MacRory. A. Neil, another one of his books, written in Irish. Éanna and Foghill, written by MacRory. I think that's his signature, I'm not too sure. Creevagh, also written by MacRory. I think that's the signature again, I'm not too sure. And there we see the blue one, Lilin Moiga. There he is as a gardener, photograph working in the Pierce in Scoil and his pupils. After 1916 he buried books and other literature in the grounds of St. Inda's. He has written many articles for Pearce's publication paper on Creevagh. English soldiers came and arrested him. He was jailed and sent across to England along with many other prisoners to Creevagh jail. His diary, now in possession of his daughter Mrs. Bríd Tully of St. Inda's Lodge, bears this out. Many names of prisoners that served there along with him are with him. He was released from jail when the amnesty was granted. Yes. He was a great friend of Éanna de Valera's. He insisted on speaking Irish all the time, and he insisted that his daughter spoke it too. At the age of 76, de Valera requested, when MacRory died, not to lit the coffin until he had time to come out and see him for the last time. Now, Micheál is buried in Glasnevin Cemetery. And here we can have a look at his grave in Glasnevin Cemetery. Tombstone of MacRory, Tully's edition in Irish. This is Glasnevin Cemetery all around here, and there's Finglas out there in that area. And this is the gravestone, and his epitaph is written in Irish. In Neil Creevagh are the Micheál MacRory, Scoil Éanna, Boss, and Henry Daltana, Lídig Turkashay.
R.I.P. Éanna van Victoria. I think Éanna van RM 141. And we see that the gravestone has been slightly moved or bulldozed away. It was left up against this tree. But this is the final resting place of Micheál Mac Ruairí that came from Foghill, that worked in Scoil as a gardener, that talked all Irish all his life, and his epitaph here is even in Irish. And this man is very well remembered today. Micheál Mac Ruairí, Glasnevin Cemetery.
Pat Rogers, a big tall man, also from Foghill, was in Dublin during the troubled times, and he was a member of the volunteers and fought in Boland's Mills under Éanna. And not much is heard of him after that. He did serve a term also in Creevagh jail, and John O'Malley said there that he was in the army. I have no confirmation of that, but I know that in the end of his days he did come down to his niece, Mrs. Kathleen, who was herself Kathleen Rogers, and down where she lives at Creevagh, and he died down there, and he is buried in the old Lacan cemetery. Now we'll have a look at Mrs. Kathleen talking about Pat Rogers, and also his a photograph of him and his final resting place in the old Lacan cemetery. Now that was a picture there of Pat Rogers of, wasn't it Foghill he came from?
Foghill.
Foghill. He lived there, he was a brother of Micheál.
That's right.
Yeah. And I suppose he left there after some years working and went, where did he go working, to Dublin?
He went working to Dublin, he went working to McCormick, on the McCormick cemetery.
Oh, he'd be working with the Ted Castle's crowd, would he?
Yeah,
the coal.
Right, yeah. Well, who owned it that time? McCormick's.
Yeah, there was Ernest McCormick and Ted Castle. He was working with them, was he? The coal business for a long time.
Yes.
And he got involved in the...
Well, he must have gone then to gardening with Micheál and Pierce's, I think.
Did he?
I think so. Not really sure.
Yeah. He was in the movement anyway at the time, wasn't he?
Oh, he was.
He was in the volunteers.
Maybe he wasn't out in Rathfarnham at that time. I suppose he wouldn't be. He was, yes, he was in Boland's Mill.
Well, he was in Boland's Mill in 1916, wasn't he?
Yes.
Under De Valera.
De Valera, that's right. Yeah.
And he was taken up prisoner and was he tried? I wonder, he must have been given a court-martial of some type or another, was he?
Well, I don't know about that now.
Well, he did serve a sentence in jail, didn't he?
I don't know really.
Yeah, he did serve
a sentence.
Pat in Creevagh.
I don't know the Pat's serving in jail.
So, you don't know if he served a term in Creevagh jail along?
No, I don't know anything about that.
He could have, no.
He could have.
Yeah.
He could have. I don't know.
He wasn't wounded or anything in the fighting in Boland's
No,
Mills.
I don't think so.
No. Did he go back to work then after that? Or did he go to England, or did he work in Dublin?
Oh, he worked in Dublin, I'd say.
After that?
Yes.
Yeah. And he didn't leave any writings after him or anything, did he?
Any what?
Any writings after him? He didn't write in the Clive Cemetery, didn't he? Yeah. Yeah. So when he reached pension age, I suppose he came down here, did he?
Oh, he was near 80 years when he came here. He must be almost 80 years.
Oh, yeah. Well, where did he live in Dublin?
He retired in Dublin. Well, the last place he was, I don't know where. He had lived in Rathfarnham, of course, with Micheál. But when after Micheál died, sometime after him died, I don't know what time he left. And he was living in Rathmines, but that was earlier in his life, I think.
Yeah.
But he was living then with a nephew, Johnny Rogers, in Baggas Street for a while.
Oh, yeah.
But where he came from now, I don't know where he came from to here. I forget, was it Baggas Street or not? No, probably was. I don't know. I forget it now.
Yeah. Yeah. So he lived to be an old man around here. He lived here to be an old man.
82.
82. So you had him down here for about 2 years.
Yeah, about 2 years he was here when he died.
And he's buried in
he's buried in the old
Lacan cemetery.
Yeah, graveyard.
Yeah.
this is him here, outside the Éanna and Bríd's church. He wasn't a clergyman, sure he wasn't.
No, no.
Just a member of the laity. Pat Rogers. Now that's a photograph of Annie Rogers. She'd be a brother of Micheál, a sister of...
no, she wasn't sister of Micheál, she was his niece.
She'd be sister of... she was your sister, wasn't she?
She was my sister.
Oh, yeah, yeah. She was in Cumanaman as a youngster here in Ireland, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was, yeah.
Well, she'd been in Cumanaman sometime between 1916 and 1922, around that time.
Oh, I suppose she was, yeah.
They were active women, these Rogers women in Foghill, weren't they?
Oh, yeah, Peggy was in it also.
Yeah. She'd be very young at the time she was involved in Cumanaman, wouldn't she?
She was, yes.
Yeah, yeah. I suppose she'd be influenced by her uncles?
I suppose so.
Pat and Micheál.
I suppose so.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That photograph we saw there was a photograph of where she was out in
Africa.
East Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then she came back and went to America, I suppose.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
It's because she's living now in
She's working in Ballinana, I'm not sure.
Yeah, she's living now anyway in America.
Oh, she's living in America now, yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's another photograph of her in America. What part of America was she in?
New Jersey.
New Jersey.
Jersey City.
Yeah. It's another photograph while she was in Africa. She's holding the hat there, isn't she?
She is.
Yeah, yeah, sun hat. Yeah. Now that's her there with her husband who's now dead, isn't it?
Yeah, and the family, that's he died last year.
Yeah.
And that.
Now that there is a photograph of another sister of yours, Maggie.
Yeah, Maggie.
Yeah. She was also in Cumanaman.
She was, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
She's in America now.
Yeah.
She lives in Richmond Hill.
Where would that be?
She lives near Kennedy Airport.
Oh, yeah. I suppose she went from here to America, did she?
She did, yes.
Yeah.
She went from here to America.
Yeah. There were a few of the Rogers family now that were active in the Republican movement since before 1916, weren't they? You had Micheál, McCrory and Pat Rogers, and then your sisters.
Two sisters.
You wasn't in it yourself, were you?
When I was too small that time, I tell you.
Ah, yeah, you were too young for it. Yeah.
I was too young at that time, I didn't know what was going on.
Tell me, where was the house ever, of course they were gone over there, was the house ever searched or were they abused by the Tans and, you know?
No, not our house, but Uncle Tom's was.
That's Tom Morden now.
I don't remember our house being searched or anything like that, no.
You never heard of it?
No.
No.
But they used to hold plays there. They used to have plays, you know.
I know, yeah.
Brushlin and all those people.
What were they doing?
Sean Scoop.
Raising funds?
Was one, raising funds I suppose, yes.
Yeah. Where did they, where did they have these plays? Did they have any, have them in the hall?
They were practicing in it, like in our house, you know, and they staged in Banner School and Cunneal, and I think they staged in Ballinana too, but they were got away with eggs.
Were they? Yeah. Now this is Roger Tighe's house in the village of Creevagh, where Pat Rogers spent the last few years of his life. Roger Tighe's. This is the old churchyard in Killigary, the old Killigary cemetery. And here is the grave of Pat Rogers of Foghill. Patrick Rogers Foghill, Blackton. His parents George and Dan Rogers, his sisters Bridget and Dan. The old Killigary cemetery, now closed for some years.
Parson Little practiced.